Just fucking do it. Subscribe now. Why do we line up all the bald people in the back so the light shines? Is there a reason for that? No, we've got a couple of skinheads up here. It's fashionable, to be bald now, I'm told. I still have a ways to go, but... good evening. The program is, as you've already gotten material in your room, but I want to make a comment about one of the myths that surround the seminar, or misconceptions, or just plain fucking stupidity. I will say 5 or 6 times, thank you very much, Duncan. I will say 5 or 6 times during the seminar that you only have to learn 25 to 30 phrases. The nomenclature, phrases. And somehow that has been interpreted wrongly that the thumb drive, the USP that you're going to get in a few days, has those 25 or 30 phrases. And it doesn't. I'm going to say it again slow. You only have to learn about 25 or 30 phrases to be on that wall. Not a couple of you will stray over to the shame part, but I'm talking about the Hall of Fame. And the material on the USB and the thumb drive is not sequential. It's not in any particular order. It's not even from A to Z. It's random. And it's put that way for a reason. In the beginning, 29 years ago, before we had USPs, but I was still struggling to find the right format for the seminar, we tried teaching blocks in different order to see what resonated with you the most. No blocks worked because you're all thick as shit. And so then we did it randomly. And when we started giving out the USP maybe 15 years ago, if we put it in a sequential order, you only read to the sequence that you needed and you never read any more. So now the last 6 or 8 years or maybe 10 years, the material is helter-skelter. So you have to read the whole motherfucker to get the answer to any of your questions. And the results have been significantly greater because now you're having to, one, go through all the material at least once, and most of you aren't bright enough for it to get into your brain once. So you have to go through that material many, many times, and then you will, by serendipity, by accident, by repetition is the real thing, you will connect the dots. For example, seller's equity is not a phrase used in the financial world. It's not. You will go to banks. I don't challenge you, but I challenge you, go to your current banker. And some of you have already followed the steps, not in sequence. I've only seen 6 people. And 3 of you have already on the wrong step. You didn't even fucking get here yet. Anyway, and you've called your current banker. And you've practiced, and some of you have taken it a little farther down the road than others. But if you do that and you ask them about seller's equity, they won't know what the fuck you're talking about. Not only won't they understand seller's equity, they won't understand that that's really seller's finance, and they won't know what that is either. Because these are words, phrases that are not used in banking. Last seminar, we had 2 or 3 bankers. We had a Barclays guy, we had a B of A guy, and we had a Citibank guy. And they said, their little heads bobbing up and down, that they had never heard it other than from my website and from the YouTubes. And these are 3 banking guys currently in banking with big-time bankers. But there's a lot of phrases. Really, seller's finance, seller's equity, seller's finance is seller's note. It's like no money down, flipping houses. They're going to sell you the house on a note, and then you're going to pay them back. That's what this business is. This is the Carnegie, the Andrew Carnegie model is nothing more than house flipping. It's business flipping, and we're not flipping them too often. We're exiting on a slower pace. And he was doing it from about 1860 to about 1910, 1865 to 1910. So that's what I mean by the 25 or 30 phrases. 25 or 30 phrases. And it's irrespective of the industry. Doesn't matter if you're rolling up flooring business, flowers, refineries, dental offices, chiropractors. There's only about 25 to 30. And why do I say 25 to 30? because in different languages, they translate differently. Now, is anybody going to do this in Arabic? Okay, well, I can tell you right now, you only need about 6 phrases in Arabic. Is anybody going to do this in Chinese, Korean, Persian, the language of Farsi? Farsi. Okay. You're going to need about 18 phrases because all the words don't translate. All the words don't translate. Now, why? It looks like I'm talking to 4-year-olds in kindergarten. Why are you all looking like your mother just died? I was reminded today, 50 years ago today, almost, I gave my first TV program on PBS, Public Broadcasting in Los Angeles, California. And it was the first financial program on TV at the time. And I still remember I wore a 3-piece light blue pinstripe suit. And we only lasted 3 deals, 3 programs, because it was, I dumbed it down from 10th grade, in other words, 18-year-old, how an 18-year-old would talk, how a 15-year-old would talk, how an 8-year-old would talk. And my prime audience was 8 years old. At least that's how they understood. That's how they assimilated information. You're no different in this room. So the seminar you're seeing today is not a fart in the wind of the seminar that I first came out with in May of 1993. This is a fucking dumbed down. I don't know why anybody comes to the seminar. I say this because everything you're going to hear, with a couple of exceptions, is on my website. Free. And since some of you had to beg, borrow, and almost kill to get here, you're desperate. And you only come to me for one of 2 reasons. Inspiration. There's not a motherfucker inspired that's been through the seminar in 15, 20 years. And desperation. Because assume the world is flat. I'm the last town before you go into the abyss. We're the last saloon. We're the last bar. We're the last whorehouse in the last town on the edge of the earth. Because you fucking kids have tried every motherfucking thing known to life before you come here. Not because it's money and the price is going up next year. It's because you've come to grips with, to make this work for some of you older kids, you have to admit that you pissed away your life for the last 20, 30 years. You pissed it away. Now, I've told you we have a 60% divorce rate. We stopped counting at 60%. Divorce meaning like a relationship with somebody, him, her, or it, or a business partnership, etc. It's way over 60, but we stopped counting at 60. We've got people in this room right now, their families have left them just because they came to the fucking seminar. Before they even came. They were ostracized from their family, their wife, and kids. Now, I would assume that person is serious. It's not an absolute, but he's potentially more serious than others. Now, remember, in the documentation you filled out, in my seminar, the first night or 2, or day or 2, is based on the information that you gave us. And then tonight's homework, I will decide whether I have to make changes. And by the middle of the second day, I will know pretty much who's going to make it and who's not going to make it. Now, we used to tell you, but I only had about a 90, 95% success rate. So that means I made it a self-fulfilling prophecy you were going to fail, and you might have had a chance not to fail, so we don't do that anymore. But I was 90% right, 9 times out of 10. I could have told you, 7 times out of 10, just send me the fucking paperwork and send me the money, don't come. But I don't do that anymore because I'm much kinder, gentler. I'm a grandfather now. I'm 77 years old, and I'm on my second half of my life. We had somebody in here tell me tonight, I've got a third of my life to go, or something like that. And I didn't disagree with them. But the day you leave here is the first day of the rest of your life. I can't make up for all the horror stories, and we got some really horrific horror stories in this room. But every seminar, we've got horrific horror stories. But you're here because your parents weren't worth a shit. That's the bottom line. They weren't worth a fucking shit. And I'm saddened by some of you have great relationship with your parents. That's too fucking bad. Because they're the first ones you're going to put a bullet in their head to get rid of them. You can't save families without saying lies. You weren't raised like Josh Kim. Homeschooled. Father, West Pointer. Mother got her PhD based on the book I recommend by Benjamin Spock on how to raise kids. Do you know what the odds of that happening are? 1 in a trillion. None of you in this room, or very few in 29 and a half years, had the benefit of that. If you don't do your homework tonight, don't come to class tomorrow. I'm going to say it again. How many of you are English isn't your primary language? Okay, so if you don't understand something, say it. How many of you are German? Fuck. I'll say verstehen, okay? If you don't do your homework, don't come to class tomorrow. And there's no excuses. And I will judge that homework at lunchtime tomorrow because I don't eat lunch with you. I don't eat breakfast with you. And I only eat dinner with you because Sally makes me. Because poorness rubs off. I smell death in the audience. I smell fear. I see fear in your eyes. So I'll read your homework tomorrow at lunch, and I will make some adjustments after lunch on the slides. There's 2,640 slides. I only use between 80 and 200, depending on the group. But the information you're getting is the best of best practices that happened in the last 2 or 3 weeks. But I mean, the environment is picture perfect. You heard me say it. God gave me 5 things. Sally, 3 kids, and Corona. I didn't know whether to shit or go blind when Corona happened. And you heard me say, negative oil, it's going to have 3 or 4 waves. You heard me all that. All of that came true. And now that the Bank of England is screwing around to try to keep from going bankrupt, I said, in April of 2020, Bank of England came within 100,000 pounds of going bankrupt. Am I the only motherfucker that read that? And now they're screwing around trying to save the pension scheme in the UK. And they're not doing a very good job about it. Because the dipshits invest in gilts in the pension schemes here. Wrongfully. The UK is the problem in Europe. It's not the solution. Praise Allah. It couldn't be any better for this model in Europe and particularly in the UK, and it couldn't be any better in the US. And then I thought all my birthdays had come at once with Corona, and then we got higher interest rates, which I've been preaching about for years. We're no longer the lowest interest rates in 5,000 years. And you all fucked up because you didn't do cock. But now we're the lowest interest rates in 3,500 years, which is plenty good enough. If you pull the trigger. This model worked at 15% interest rates. If you bought a house, $200,000 mortgage a year ago, your mortgage was 2%. Today it's 6%. We're going to see much higher interest rates. The market hasn't hit its bottom, and I'll talk about crypto fuck later in the week, which I get, it's like an orgasmic experience seeing that fucking thing fall on its fucking face. And who told you? This man told you. But some of you paid for your extravaganza, the trip with crypto. For that, praise Allah. But that's the only fucking good that's going to come in your fucking lifetimes out of crypto fuck is paying to come here. Now, my disdain for crypto fuck isn't quite as bad as Charlie the Munger, who says it's rat poison squared. I don't know how you square rat poison, but I'm not going to disagree with the old man who's 97, 98 years old. But we know what he means, don't we? So homework tonight, and you'll get a little extra before when we go to dinner and we come back from dinner and we sit here and I pontificate a few minutes. But what you see on the screens, I want your takeaway. How does it relate to you? How doesn't it relate to you? Does it resonate the person they're talking about? You know, all the people that you put up as icons, i.e. the flavor of the day right now is Elon Musk. He's an asshole. You want their money, but you don't want their sacrifices. Steve Jobs was a prick who I personally knew. You want to change the world like he did, but you don't want to make the fucking sacrifices he did. And go on and on and on. So you're delusional. That's why you're as thick as they used to say in Britain, thick as two short planks. I don't know what that means, but that means you're a thick shit. That's what I know what it means. So the first day or day and a half, we dispel a lot of myths. And we're telling you, and you're going to hear, depending on the stupidity of the group, you'll hear between 11 and 17 webinars. One live, and the rest taped in the last few months. They're all from within the last year. And they're all going to say, follow the steps, and you're not going to follow the steps, but I mean follow the steps, and follow what Dan says like the word of motherfucking God. And whenever I deviated from his 7 commandments, you know, Moses brought down 10. There's 3 too many. You fail. And then you go on Reddit and say QLA failed. Instead of saying, I'm just a worthless cunt piece of shit. I should have rolled down the inside of my mama's leg, and I have brought no value to the planet at all. Nobody in this room, including the medical doctors, has brought one fucking thing to the planet. Is the planet any better off from anybody in this fucking room? No. We have PhDs, medical doctors, a lot of multi degrees, and then we got a bunch of thick shits with 40 IQs. Couldn't even make it through junior college. Couldn't even make it through high school. You've all got a reason for it, right? Those reasons you've been deluding yourself for years and years and years, but they make no sense. On that wall, we have people with 80 IQs and 180 IQs. The 80 IQ did a 400 million pound deal. The 180 IQ did a 40 million pound deal. And then there's you, this band of renown. And there are such things as stupid questions. So think carefully. I know that's be hard for most of you. But if you ask me a question you should have known because you studied the stuff that I told you to study beforehand, I will jump down your fucking throat and rip out your fucking guts. Because I'm going to teach you what it's like to make a lot of money in the real world. Not the little chicken shit world you've been floating around in. You're like the same aquarium that I dropped on my teacher in 1955, trying to kill him, had about 7 or 8 fish in it. That's how I relate to you, as those fish in that aquarium. And Sally and I were just there a few months ago, and I looked out the window again. The first time I looked out the window, I got chills up my back. But if the teacher hadn't stepped to one side 6 or 8 inches, he'd be dead. I wouldn't be standing here. Instead, I just dislocated his shoulder, sent him to the hospital. But I've been pulling the trigger all my life. Some of you in this room have never pulled the trigger. Some of you in this room have never been screamed at. Some of you in this room have never been disciplined by your parents, spanking. Some of you in this room have never been in a fist fight in grammar school or whatever, school. Some of you in this room wouldn't say fucking shit if I was drooling out your mouth. That's all got to change. We have a young man in here, his younger brother, I was just about to say his older brother. His younger brother is a success story. We'll talk about that over the next week. We're going to talk about Simon the Voss, who is a success story. He came, then he sent his significant other here. Then he sent his kid brother and his fiancée. Now he's sending his baby sister and his other kid brother. Then he's sending his mother and his father. Now, why would all these people pay to come to a program that he could teach them if he wanted to, but he doesn't give a shit because he separated himself from all his family? Because they think, wrongfully, Simon, he's the weak link in the family. And if this little fucking sawed-off midget can make millions upon millions in a year and a half, fuck, we're the smart family members. We ought to make trillions. So we're getting 6 for the price of 1. Actually, we're getting 6 for the price of 6 because they're all paying. We'll see how easy you think it is. When we retire for dinner in about 10 seconds, you will go to that young man over there, Duncan the butler, and he will tell you where you're seated. But it's in that room, the next room, to the extent that you call that a room. And then I will be back after dinner to give you a few words of wisdom. And Duncan, hit it.